Hey guys, back with another podcast episode. I've been thinking about what I want to talk about, and I realize I want to talk about transparency. I feel like we're lacking that in this world. I'm going through a lot of mixed emotions in my life, thinking about a lot of things, thinking about a lot of people, thinking about what direction I really want to go in. And I've been observing a lot of people. I've been really paying attention to media, other speakers, other people in the limelight, and realizing that a lot of us are really pretending in our lives. A lot of us really act like we have it all together. And it's crazy because with these podcast episodes or with my videos, all I want to do is inspire people. All I want to do is encourage people. All I want to do is push people. But I don't want to come across as a person who has it all together. It kind of bothers me in society how we only are encouraged or look towards people who seem to have it all together, instead of relating to people who admit their struggles, who are honest about every single thing in their lives. And I feel like we honestly put so much pressure on people. I feel like we put more pressure on people than we do on ourselves. And honestly, it sickens me. I was recently watching, well, not recently, it was a little bit a while ago. I was watching Brian Dawkins. He was giving his Hall of Fame speech. And he was talking about how he battled depression. And it's crazy, a football player with his caliber, to have that mental toughness, to have that spotlight, to have everybody looking at him, to think that he's this tough guy, that he never goes through anything, because that's what the football players, they portray. But to see that he openly talked about depression was so awesome. And it just proved that as much as we act like we have it all together, or as much as we have a certain amount of success or money or a perfect family to everybody else, it's not enough. We still go through things, we still have our struggles. And the fact that he opened up about it, he helped a lot of people. And I love kind of like where the world is going in that direction. You hear players like Kevin Love or DeMar DeRozan, who's on the Toronto Raptors, Kevin Love, who's on the Cavaliers, openly admit that they have their struggles, openly admit that they have anxiety issues. And it's really showing that it is okay to be transparent, it is okay to be real. But I think that even though there's many people who are stepping up, there's still a lot of people who are still stuck in their own ways, still stuck with that stigma of, if I admit my struggles, everybody's going to judge me, or I don't have any struggles, that I don't want to talk about them. And I was, after I watched the Brian Dawkins Hall of Fame speech, I read something about Steve Smith, who played mostly with the Carolina Panthers for his entire career, basically. He talked about how he had depression issues. He had a lot of sadness in his life. And this is another football player. Steve Smith was like everybody's go-to player. When you think of Steve Smith, it's like the mental toughness that he had, the competitive nature in him, how he would just throw players to the ground, how even as a under 6 foot wide receiver, he was so strong, he was so inspiring, he was such a force on the field. He talked about how he had his own struggles, and he talked about how he struggles with mistakes he made in the past. And it blew my mind how he talked about how he still thinks about passes that he dropped like 10 years ago. That's insane. To be a Hall of Fame player, to have all the accolades that he has, to still dwell on mistakes in the past, to still dwell on drop passes, to not even get it out of his head. And the fact that he opened up about that made me realize that he struggles with perfectionism. And it made me realize that I can relate to that. I have my own struggles with perfectionism. I still think about things that all the mistakes that I've made, whether it was speaking, whether it was a video, whether it was a conversation. A lot of that stuff stays with me, to the point that sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm still thinking about those things, and I have to like pray about it, or I have to just take a deep breath. And I think that the more we talk about our struggles, the more we talk about our issues, the more transparent we are, I think we can help a lot of people, in my opinion. The whole point of this episode, what I really want to get out, is that we can save so many people if we're just honest about a struggle that we have. Especially if you have a platform. Especially if certain people are already looking towards you. So just recently I was watching a YouTube video. It was on Steven Furtick. For those of you who don't know, he's actually a pastor of Elevation Church. And he was interviewing Caroline Leaf, who's a neuroscientist, who also bases a lot of her teachings on the scriptures. She matches them. And he was interviewing her, and they were talking about his series that he's going through right now called Triggered. Basically, in all the anxiety that we deal with in this day and age, and what we can do to help get through it. And one thing that I noticed is that Steven Furtick, he does get a lot of bad rap. A lot of people like to say a lot of things about him, that he's full of himself, or he's not preaching the right way, or he's not specifically a man of God, and this and that. But as he was interviewing this woman, he was talking about his struggles. He was talking about his struggles with worthiness. He was talking about his struggles of how he feels like instead of operating from a place of love, he feels like he operates from a place of fear. And I think a lot of us, we like to say that we operate naturally from a place of love. But it's true, a lot of us do operate from a place of fear. A lot of us are worried about what people think. And he said something that truly blew my mind. He said that he has fears of, even if he doesn't disappoint somebody, he has a fear that eventually he will disappoint them. And I think that's so real. To be a pastor, to have the platform that he has, thousands and thousands of people that go to that church, to be openly honest about that is real. That's being transparent. That's being vulnerable. And when he said that, that stood out to me, because many times I have those same issues. And I'm sure many times you guys have those same issues of worried about what people think, or worried about being a disappointment, worried about letting people down. But my whole point of just bringing him up is the fact that when he said that, he became more relatable to me. And I think that's ultimately what it really comes down to in this world. How relatable are you to people? What kind of connections do you build? I think a lot of us, we try to portray ourselves to be a certain way. A lot of us want to look a certain way, not realizing that it's selfish. And if you're listening right now, I really, really want you to listen to this. Think about somebody who's truly suffering out there. Think about somebody who's really going through something, whether it's depression, anxiety, stressing like crazy. I want you to think how selfish it is of you not to openly admit that you have your struggles to them. I want you to think about what it would be like if you said something that you struggle with, and how much that can impact them, how much that can help them. Lately, I've been really thinking about how much I can help people just by openly admitting I have struggles. I'm tired of the stigma of hoping that people don't think I struggle, or hoping that people think I'm this strong person. Because as much as I want to inspire people or encourage people or build confidence in people, I believe that we all are here to do that for each other. And I believe that we all have our weaknesses. We all have our struggles. And we should all build each other up. We shouldn't judge one another for being weaker or stronger than the other person. And I've been thinking about walking in the image of God. And what does that mean? When you walk in the image of God, you're being genuine. You're being real. You're being transparent. You're being loving. How can you be loving to another individual if you're not talking about what's truly on your heart? How can you be loving towards another individual if you're holding back every single thing that's on your mind? I think we're so concerned about what other people think, and it builds more anxiety in us. It's like we're judging ourselves, and then we judge ourselves on top of that, worried about what other people are thinking. We worried about what we think, and then we worried about what other people think. It's that compounding judgment. And for what? So I hope with this episode that you guys stop trying to pretend to be somebody that you're not, which is this person who has no issues, or this person that needs to be an influencer and help everybody, but is not helping themselves. Because if you can't be real and honest with yourself, if you can't be real and honest with God, you can't be real and honest with anybody else. So when you can be real with God and say, I have these struggles, God, help me with this. When you can be real with people around you, they respect you more. They admire you. But when you act like you have no issues, how can someone connect with you? How can someone relate with you? How can someone understand you? It's that understanding, it's that relatability, it's that transparency that builds relationships. That's what builds connections. That's how you're able to piece every single thing in your life to somebody else's life. And that's what it's really all about. So I really encourage you to dig deep and rethink how you're living your life. Rethink how you're portraying yourself. And get to a place where you say, I just want to be myself. And just know that just by being yourself, you can help so many people. Just by being yourself, you can build genuine relationships. And just by being yourself, you're going to have a stronger relationship with God, and He's going to be able to use you to impact so many more people. And that's what it's all about. Till the next episode, guys. Take care.